You know, I was at a wedding recently, and I observed something absolutely fascinating. There were two young men there, both in their late twenties, both well educated, both well dressed, both from good families. On paper, they were almost identical, but when you watched them interact with people, the difference was like night and day. The first young man, let's call him Rahul, would walk into a group of people, and within minutes, everyone would be drawn to him. Not because he was telling jokes, not because he was showing off, not because he was the loudest person in the room. There was just something about him, the way he smiled, the way he listened when others spoke, the way he made everyone feel comfortable, the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. And then there was the second young man, let's call him Arjun. Same background, same advantages in life, but when he entered a conversation, you could feel the energy shift, not in a good way. He would interrupt people, talk mostly about himself, look at his phone while others were speaking, correct people unnecessarily, and there was this underlying tension in his body language that made everyone around him slightly uncomfortable. And I watched as, throughout the evening, people naturally gravitated toward Rahul and naturally drifted away from Arjun. Same wedding, same opportunities to connect, completely different outcomes. Now, here's what struck me the most. After the wedding, I had a chance to speak with both of them separately. Arjun was complaining people don't appreciate me. They don't see my worth. I have so much to offer, but no one takes me seriously. He was bitter, frustrated, feeling like the world was against him. But Rahul wasn't even thinking about himself. He was talking about the interesting people he met, the stories he heard, the connections he made. He was energized, joyful, fulfilled. And the difference between these two young men wasn't their circumstances, wasn't their intelligence, wasn't their resources. The difference was their personality. And I sat in my car after that wedding, just thinking, reflecting on what I had witnessed. Because this is the story of so many people's lives, isn't it? We go through life wondering why some people seem to attract opportunities, relationships, success, while others struggle despite having similar or even better qualifications. We wonder why some people light up a room while others dim it. We wonder why some people inspire trust and others suspicion. We wonder why some people seem to effortlessly create meaningful connections, while others feel perpetually lonely despite being surrounded by people. And we think it's luck, we think it's fate, we think it's about being born with some magical charm that either you have or you don't. We think personality is fixed, like your height or your eye color, you're either born charismatic or you're not, and there's nothing you can do about it. But here's what I've discovered in my years of spiritual practice, in my years of observing thousands of people, in my years of studying both ancient wisdom and modern psychology. That belief is completely, absolutely, magnificently wrong. Your personality is not a fixed thing. It's not something you're stuck with. It's something you build, something you cultivate, something you improve every single day. Think about it like this. If I told you that you could improve your physical health by exercising every day, eating better, sleeping well, you wouldn't be surprised, would you? That's obvious. Everyone knows that. If I told you that you could improve your financial situation by making smart choices every day, saving, investing, learning new skills, you'd nod your head and say, yes, of course. That makes perfect sense. But somehow, when it comes to personality, we've bought into this myth that it's permanent, unchangeable, that this is just who you are, and you have to accept it. But your personality is not your identity. Your personality is your interface with the world. It's how you show up, how you interact, how you make others feel, how you handle situations. And just like you can improve your health, Just like you can improve your finances, you can improve your personality. Not by becoming someone you're not, not by putting on a fake mask, not by pretending to be someone else, but by consciously, deliberately, daily becoming a better version of who you already are. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. But Gopal Das, I'm an introvert. I can't be like those naturally outgoing people. Or I've always been this way. It's too late to change. Or I don't want to change who I am just to please others. And these are valid concerns. So let me be very clear about what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you need to become an extrovert if you're an introvert. I'm not saying you need to be loud if you're naturally quiet. I'm not saying you need to be someone you're not. What I'm saying is that within your natural temperament, within your authentic self, there are aspects of your personality that are either helping you or hurting you, that are either opening doors or closing them, that are either connecting you with others or isolating you. And the beautiful thing, the absolutely liberating thing, is that you have the power to improve these aspects every single day. Not through some dramatic transformation that takes years, not through some expensive program or complicated process, but through small, simple, daily choices that compound over time into a personality that attracts rather than repels, that uplifts rather than drains, that opens possibilities rather than limits them. Let me take you back to my own journey, because I wasn't always the person you see today. When I was younger, in my college days, before I took sannyas, I was deeply insecure. I would walk into rooms feeling like everyone was judging me. I would overthink every conversation. Did I say the right thing? Did I sound stupid? Do they think I'm boring? I would try too hard to impress people, which of course had the opposite effect. I would either talk too much because I was nervous, or say nothing because I was afraid of saying something wrong. I would compare myself constantly to others and always come up short in my own mind. My personality wasn't just unimpressive, it was actually pushing people away, and I couldn't understand why. I remember this one incident very clearly. I was at a college fest, and there was this group discussion happening about philosophy and spirituality, topics I loved, topics I had read extensively about, and I sat there, desperately wanting to contribute, but paralyzed by fear. And when I finally did speak, it came out all wrong. I tried to sound intelligent, but I came across as arrogant. I tried to share knowledge, but it sounded like I was showing off. And I could see people's faces, that slight withdrawal, that polite but disengaged look. And I went home that night feeling terrible about myself, convinced that I just wasn't the kind of person people liked, that I didn't have it. Whatever it was. But then, as I went deeper into spiritual practice, as I started studying the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, as I began working on myself internally, something shifted. Not overnight, not dramatically, but gradually, day by day. And now, decades later, I speak to thousands of people. I connect with people from all walks of life, and people tell me that spending time with me leaves them feeling uplifted. And the transformation wasn't about becoming a different person. It was about becoming a better version of myself. It was about shedding the insecurities, the ego, the neediness, the fear that was masking my authentic self. So when I talk about improving your personality every day, I'm talking from experience. I'm talking as someone who has walked this path, who knows it's possible, who has seen it transform not just my own life, but the lives of countless others I've counseled over the years. And today, I want to share with you exactly how you can do this. Not through vague advice, not through good platitudes, but through specific, practical, daily practices that work. But before we get to the solutions, we need to understand the problem clearly, because you can't fix what you don't understand. You can't improve what you're not aware of. So let's talk about why so many people struggle with their personality, why so many people unknowingly sabotage themselves, why so many people remain stuck in patterns that don't serve them. The first problem is lack of self-awareness. Most people have no idea how they come across to others. They think they're being friendly when they're actually being intrusive. They think they're being confident when they're being arrogant. They think they're being helpful when they're being controlling. They think they're being funny when they're being offensive. There's this massive gap between how we see ourselves and how others see us. And because we're never told directly, we never become aware of this gap. I've seen this so many times. I counseled this young professional once, let's call her Mira, who couldn't understand why she wasn't getting promoted despite being technically excellent at her job. And when I dug deeper, when I spoke to her colleagues, the picture became clear. Mira would cut people off in meetings, not because she was trying to be rude, but because she was excited and wanted to contribute. Mira would send messages late at night, expecting immediate responses, not because she was inconsiderate, but because she was passionate about her work. Mira would correct people's small mistakes publicly, not because she wanted to embarrass them, but because she valued accuracy. In her mind, she was enthusiastic, dedicated, and detail-oriented. In everyone else's experience, she was exhausting, demanding, and demoralizing. And no one had told her because it's awkward to tell someone about their personality flaws. This is the first problem. We're walking around blind to our own impact on others. We're like someone with food stuck in their teeth, going through the whole day smiling at people, wondering why everyone looks away uncomfortably, never knowing that there's something glaringly obvious that everyone can see except us. The second problem is that we confuse personality with authenticity. We say things like, this is just who I am, take it or leave it, I'm being authentic. But here's the thing, being authentic doesn't mean being unfiltered. Being yourself doesn't mean being your worst self. You can be genuinely you, while also being consciously considerate. You can maintain your core values and temperament, while still improving how you interact with the world. I see this especially with people who pride themselves on being brutally honest. They think that saying whatever comes to their mind without consideration makes them authentic, but actually it just makes them brutal. Real authenticity is about being true to your values while expressing them in ways that don't unnecessarily hurt others. Real authenticity is about having the self-awareness to distinguish between this is who I am and this is a habit I've developed that I'm defending because it's comfortable. Think about it. If you're naturally impatient, does being authentic mean you should let your impatience control your interactions? Or does growth mean acknowledging your natural tendency toward impatience while choosing to respond with more patience? Your impatience might be natural to you, but developing patience doesn't make you inauthentic. It makes you mature. The third problem is that we're influenced by the wrong models. We look at celebrities, influencers, movie characters, and we think that's what an impressive personality looks like. We think personality is about being witty, being the center of attention, being effortlessly cool, having perfect comebacks, never showing vulnerability. So we try to copy these external behaviors without understanding the internal qualities that actually make someone's personality attractive. I see young people trying to be like their favorite movie stars, putting on airs, trying to appear sophisticated, attempting to project an image that's completely disconnected from who they really are. And it's painfully obvious to everyone around them, but they can't see it themselves because they're so focused on the image rather than the substance. They're building a personality like a house made of cardboard, painted to look like marble, impressive from a distance, but flimsy when you get close. The fourth problem, and this is a big one, is that we're not addressing the root causes. We try to fix surface-level behaviors without addressing the internal issues driving them. We try to appear more confident without dealing with our insecurity. We try to be more likable without dealing with our need for validation. We try to be more influential without dealing with our ego. And so we end up with these forced, fake versions of improved personality that don't last because they're not rooted in genuine internal growth. Someone might take a communication course and learn to maintain eye contact, use hand gestures, modulate their voice, and these are useful techniques, don't get me wrong. But if the underlying anxiety, the desperate need to be liked, the fear of rejection if these aren't addressed, then all those techniques just become a more polished version of the same insecure person. It's like putting makeup on to cover a skin condition rather than treating the skin condition itself. It might work temporarily, but it's not real improvement. The fifth problem is inconsistency. People have these moments of inspiration where they decide to improve, and for a few days they're on their best behavior. They're patient, they're kind, they're attentive, but then life gets stressful, something goes wrong, and boom, they're back to their old pattern. Because they treated personality improvement as a project with an end date rather than as a daily practice, they tried to make a dramatic change rather than making small, sustainable changes every single day. I've seen this countless times. Someone comes to me and says, "I want to change. I'm going to be a better person starting now." And for a week, they're wonderful. But then their boss criticizes them, or they're stuck in traffic, or they have a bad day, and suddenly all that progress vanishes. Because they hadn't built the foundation, they hadn't developed the daily habits that support personality growth. They were running on motivation rather than on systems, and this brings us to perhaps the biggest problem of all: people don't believe they can change. Deep down, despite what they say, they don't really believe their personality can improve. They've tried before and failed. They've made resolutions that didn't stick. They've had people tell them to just be yourself, as if that solves everything. So they've resigned themselves to thinking, "This is just who I am, and I have to live with it." And this belief becomes self-fulfilling. If you don't believe you can improve, you won't put in the consistent effort required. You'll sabotage your own growth with thoughts like, "Why bother? I'll just mess up again anyway." You'll give up at the first sign of difficulty. You'll interpret any setback as proof that change is impossible rather than as a normal part of the growth process. But here's what I want you to understand, and this is crucial: every single one of these problems has a solution. Every single barrier to personality improvement can be overcome. Not through some magical transformation, not through some secret technique, but through conscious, daily, deliberate practice. So let me share with you the solutions, the practical steps you can take starting today to improve your personality every single day. The first and most fundamental solution is developing self-awareness through feedback and reflection. You cannot improve what you're not aware of, so you need to create systems to become aware of how you're actually coming across to others. And there are two ways to do this: external feedback and internal reflection. For external feedback, you need to create safe spaces where people can be honest with you. Sit down with someone you trust, a close friend, a family member, a mentor, and ask them specifically, "How do I come across to others? What are my blind spots? When do I unknowingly put people off? What aspects of my personality could use improvement?" And this is hard because you need to listen without defending yourself, without explaining, without justifying. Just listen and absorb. I did this years ago with a senior monk I trusted. I asked him to be completely honest about my weaknesses, and what he told me was painful to hear. He said I had a tendency to dominate conversations, that I would often finish people's sentences for them, that my enthusiasm sometimes came across as not respecting others' space. It hurt my ego to hear this, but it was exactly what I needed to know to grow. For internal reflection, develop a daily practice of reviewing your interactions. Every evening, spend just 10 minutes thinking back on your day. How did you make people feel? Were there moments where you could have been more patient, more present, more considerate? Were there times when you spoke too much or too little, when you interrupted someone or missed social cues? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about honest observation, like a scientist studying data. The second solution is working from the inside out. Instead of trying to fix surface behaviors, address the internal qualities that drive your personality. And there are 4 core internal qualities that, when developed, naturally improve every aspect of your personality: humility, empathy, gratitude, and self-discipline. Humility is about recognizing that you're not the center of the universe, that others have valuable perspectives, that you don't have all the answers. When you develop genuine humility, you stop needing to impress people. You stop dominating conversations. You become genuinely curious about others rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. And people feel this. They feel safe around you because you're not constantly trying to prove something. Empathy is about genuinely trying to understand what others are experiencing, feeling, needing. When you develop empathy, your entire communication style changes. You become more careful with your words. You pick up on emotional cues. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. You know when someone needs advice and when they just need to be heard. And this makes you magnetic because in a world where everyone is so focused on themselves, someone who actually sees you is rare and precious. Gratitude is about appreciating what you have rather than constantly focusing on what you lack. When you develop genuine gratitude, your entire energy changes. You stop complaining. You stop being negative. You radiate positivity not in a fake, forced way, but in a genuine, grounded way. And people naturally want to be around grateful people because gratitude is contagious. It's uplifting, it's healing. Self-discipline is about doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. When you develop self-discipline, you become reliable. People trust you. You follow through on commitments. You show up consistently. You don't let moods dictate your behavior. And reliability is one of the most attractive personality traits there is because it's so rare. Now, how do you develop these internal qualities? Through daily practices. For humility, start each day reminding yourself that everyone you meet knows something you don't, has experienced something you haven't, has something to teach you. For empathy, practice the walk in their shoes. Exercise before judging anyone. Imagine what their life might be like, what challenges they might be facing. For gratitude, keep a daily gratitude journal. Write 3 things you're grateful for every single day. For self-discipline, commit to 1 non-negotiable daily practice. No matter how you feel, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's reading. The specific practice matters less than the consistency. The third solution is mastering the art of making others feel valued. This is perhaps the single most important skill for an attractive personality. Maya Angelou said it perfectly. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So how do you make people feel valued? It starts with attention. When someone is talking to you, give them your complete attention. Put your phone away. Make eye contact. Listen not just to their words, but to their emotions. Notice what they're not saying. Show through your body language that they matter in this moment. This alone will put you in the top 10% of personalities, because most people are so distracted, so self-absorbed, they never truly pay attention to anyone. Next, remember details. If someone tells you their daughter has an exam next week, follow up and ask how it went. If someone mentions they're dealing with a challenging situation, check in on them later. If someone shares something they're passionate about, remember it and ask about it in future conversations. These small acts of remembering communicate, "You're important enough for me to remember. You matter to me." Then celebrate others. When someone succeeds, celebrate genuinely. When someone shares good news, be excited for them without making it about you. When someone does something well, acknowledge it. Be generous with sincere compliments. But here's the key: it has to be genuine. People can smell fake appreciation from miles away. So train yourself to actually notice the good in others, to genuinely appreciate them, and then express it. The fourth solution is developing emotional regulation. Your personality is not fixed, but if you're controlled by your emotions, your personality will be inconsistent. Some days you'll be wonderful, other days you'll be terrible, and people won't know what to expect. Emotional regulation means you're aware of your emotions. You feel them fully, but you don't let them dictate your behavior. Practice the pause. When something triggers you, someone criticizes you, something doesn't go your way, you're feeling stressed, pause before reacting. Take a breath, count to 10 if you need to. Create that space between stimulus and response. In that space lies your power to choose how you show up, rather than being a slave to your immediate emotional reaction. Also, develop emotional vocabulary. Most people only have a few emotional labels: happy, sad, angry, stressed. But there are hundreds of emotional states. The more precisely you can identify what you're feeling, the better you can manage it. Are you annoyed or disappointed, anxious or excited, frustrated or hurt? Precise emotional awareness gives you power over your emotions rather than them having power over you. The fifth solution is curating your inputs. Your personality is heavily influenced by what you consume, what you read, what you watch, who you spend time with, what you expose your mind to. If you're constantly consuming negative news, violent content, cynical perspectives, gossip, drama, that's going to shape your personality. You'll become more negative, more cynical, more dramatic yourself. So be intentional about your inputs. Read books that inspire growth. Listen to content that uplifts. Spend time with people who bring out the best in you, not the worst. Limit exposure to toxic content, toxic people, toxic environments. Your mind is like a garden. What you plant and water will grow. Plant seeds of wisdom, compassion, growth, and your personality will bloom accordingly. Now, all of these solutions work, but only if you implement them consistently. So let me give you a specific action plan, concrete practices you can start doing today that will transform your personality day by day. First, implement the morning intention practice. Every morning, before you start your day, take 2 minutes to set an intention for how you want to show up today. Not what you want to accomplish, but who you want to be. Maybe today your intention is, "I will listen more than I speak," or "I will be patient even when stressed," or "I will make everyone I meet feel valued." Just one clear intention. Write it down. Revisit it during the day. This simple practice creates consciousness that transforms behavior. Second, the 3 in counter rule. Every single day, Have 3 meaningful interactions where you make someone feel valued. It could be the security guard you usually ignore stop and ask how their day is going. It could be a family member, give them 5 minutes of undivided attention. It could be a colleague, send them a message appreciating something they did. 3 people, every day, deliberately made to feel valued. This practice will transform not just your personality, but your entire life, because you're training yourself to see and appreciate others. Third, the evening review practice I mentioned earlier. Every night before sleep, review your day. Ask yourself 3 questions. When did I show up as my best self today? When did I fall short of who I want to be? What will I do differently tomorrow? Write brief answers. This takes 5 minutes, but compounds massively over time. You're creating a feedback loop of continuous improvement. Fourth, the monthly feedback session. Once a month, ask someone you trust for honest feedback about your personality. Different person each month, if possible. 1 month your spouse, next month a close friend, next month a colleague. Ask them, how am I doing? What have you noticed improving? Where do I still have work to do? This keeps you accountable and aware of your progress. Fifth, the mirror practice. This might sound strange, but it works. Once a week, stand in front of a mirror and have a conversation with yourself as if you're someone else. Observe your facial expressions, your body language, your tone. Are you approachable? Do you look friendly or closed off? Do you maintain good eye contact or look away? This external perspective on yourself is incredibly valuable. Sixth, the gratitude letter practice. Once a month, write a letter expressing gratitude to someone in your life. Actually write it out by hand. You don't even have to send it if that feels too vulnerable. The practice of articulating appreciation develops the internal quality of gratitude, which transforms your entire personality. Grateful people are magnetic people. Seventh, the patience exercise. Every day, deliberately put yourself in one situation that requires patience. Maybe it's standing in the longest queue at the grocery store. Maybe it's having a conversation with someone who talks slowly. Maybe it's doing a task that's tedious. And practice being fully present and patient without irritation. This builds emotional regulation muscle that serves you in all areas. Eighth, the learning posture. In every conversation, try to learn at least one thing from the other person. Go into interactions with curiosity rather than judgment. Ask questions. Be genuinely interested. This practice develops humility and makes you infinitely more interesting, because curious people are attractive, judgmental people are repelling. Ninth, the compliment challenge. Give at least 3 genuine compliments every day to different people, but make them specific, not "you're great," but "I really appreciated how patient you were in that difficult situation." Specific compliments show you're paying attention and help you train your mind to notice the good in others, which changes your entire perspective. 10th, the digital boundaries practice. Set specific times when you're completely device-free, maybe during meals, maybe the first hour after waking up, maybe an hour before sleep. Use this time to be fully present with yourself or others. This single practice will dramatically improve your personality, because presence is the foundation of meaningful connection. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's a lot of practices. How am I supposed to do all of this? And you're right, doing everything at once would be overwhelming. So here's what I want you to do. Don't try to implement all of these tomorrow. That's a recipe for failure. Instead, choose just 3 practices from this list. 3 that resonate with you. 3 that feel most relevant to where you are right now. Commit to those 3 practices for 30 days. Make them non-negotiable. Build them into your routine until they become habit. After 30 days, evaluate which practices are working, which ones have become natural. Then add one or two more practices. Build gradually, because personality improvement is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not about dramatic transformation overnight. It's about small, consistent improvements that compound over months and years into a personality that opens doors, attracts opportunities, creates meaningful connections, and most importantly, reflects the best version of who you really are. And here's something beautiful that happens when you commit to this daily practice of personality improvement. You stop being so focused on yourself. When you're constantly working on becoming better, you're not obsessing over how you're being perceived. You're not anxiously wondering if people like you. You're just showing up every day trying to be a little bit better than yesterday. And ironically, this takes the pressure off. You become more natural, more relaxed, more genuinely yourself because you're not trying to prove anything to anyone. You're just committed to growth. I want to share one more story before we close, because this story encapsulates everything I've been trying to share with you today. There was this man who came to me several years ago. He was in his 40s, successful in his career, but deeply lonely. He had acquaintances but no real friends. He had colleagues but no one who truly cared about him. His own family kept him at arm's length. And he was confused and hurt because he thought he was a good person. He didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't cruel or dishonest. So why was he so isolated? As we talked, it became clear. His personality had become self-protective. Years of disappointments and rejections had taught him to keep people at a distance. So he would be polite but never warm, professional but never personal. He would help people but never let them help him. He would listen to others but never share about himself. He thought he was protecting himself from getting hurt, but actually he was preventing any real connection from forming. So we worked together. I gave him simple practices: smile at 3 people every day, share something personal in conversations, ask for help with something small, express vulnerability occasionally, and for weeks nothing seemed to change. He felt like he was forcing himself to be someone he wasn't, but I encouraged him to persist, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. A colleague started inviting him for coffee. A neighbor started chatting with him beyond just hellos. His sister started calling more frequently, and 6 months later, he came back to me with tears in his eyes. He said, "I have friends now, real friends. People actually seek out my company. What changed?" And I told him, "Your personality changed. Not your core self, not your values, not your identity. But how you show up in the world changed. You started showing up with warmth instead of walls, with openness instead of defensiveness, with genuine interest in others instead of self-protection." And people responded to that. People always respond to genuine warmth. This is what I want for each of you. I want you to experience the joy, the fulfillment, the richness that comes from having a personality that connects rather than isolates, that attracts rather than repels, that opens possibilities rather than closes them. And the beautiful thing is, this is completely within your control. You cannot control your circumstances, you cannot control other people, but you can control how you show up every single day. You can control the small choices that shape your personality. So here's my final message to you, my closing invitation. Starting today, right now, commit to improving your personality every day, not through some dramatic transformation, not by becoming someone you're not, but through small, conscious, daily choices. Choose to be a little more patient today than you were yesterday. Choose to listen a little more deeply. Choose to make one person feel genuinely valued. Choose to respond with kindness even when you're stressed. Choose to be curious instead of judgmental. Choose to be grateful instead of entitled. These small choices, repeated daily, will transform you. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but definitely over weeks and months and years. And one day you'll look back and barely recognize the person you used to be, because you'll have become so much more patient, more kind, more connected, more alive, more joyful, more you. Not a different person, but the best version of yourself. Remember, your personality is not your prison. It's not something you're stuck with. It's your power. It's how you interface with the world, how you create your reality, how you build your relationships, how you shape your life. And you have the power to improve it every single day through conscious choice. The question is not whether you can improve your personality. You absolutely can. The question is whether you will, whether you'll commit to the daily practices, whether you'll persist even when progress seems slow, whether you'll show up for yourself day after day, choice after choice, interaction after interaction, building the personality that will carry you toward the life you want to live. I believe you can. I believe you will, because the fact that you're here, that you're listening, that you're open to growth, that tells me everything I need to know about your character. You have what it takes. You just need to start. Start today. Start small. Start with one practice, one intention, one conscious choice to show up better than you did yesterday. And watch what happens. Watch how relationships deepen. Watch how opportunities appear. Watch how life becomes richer, fuller, more meaningful. Not because you changed who you are, but because you became more fully who you're meant to be. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for your commitment to growth. May you improve your personality every day. May you become the person you're capable of being. May you experience the joy that comes from authentic connection, genuine growth, and a life well lived. Go now and be better today than you were yesterday. That's all it takes. Just be a little better today, and then tomorrow be a little better than today. And day by day, choice by choice, interaction by interaction, you'll become someone who doesn't just live life, but enriches it for yourself and for everyone blessed enough to know you. Thank you.